everybody. Welcome to the Ladybug Laboratory podcast. You can find me on Instagram as ladybug.lily. You can find me on Ravelry as ladybuglily. I am Lily, by the way. This episode is going to be a little bit rougher on the edges for several reasons. Basically, I was watching an episode of Knitting My Ship Together the other day, and Willow was talking about how she tries not to over-edit it because she doesn't want to appear intimidating or overly perfect, right? And I realized that I am a big perfectionist, definitely a perfectionist. And so I will often like I have to record in little segments because my phone doesn't, it won't upload the video if it's more than about 11 minutes long. So I just record in small segments and then piece them together in editing, which is fine. But I also sometimes I will just get overly self-conscious about what I'm saying and repeat it multiple times in different ways and then edit it to be the one that I like. Because I'm a perfectionist and I decided, screw that. So we're not going to do that. I'm just going to go with what I say the first time, even if it's nonsense. And I'm a real person. I have a real life. I'm not just here to create content. And so that is something that I'm doing to work on valuing my time and not being such a perfectionist, which is something that I'm working on for my own mental health. And the other thing that I'm working on for my own mental health is accepting where I'm at in my life right now. And where I'm at in my life right now is recording is not something I can just sit down and do. It's something I have to do piecemeal throughout the day. When my daughter's asleep and the dishes are done and the laundry is done and maybe she's going to sleep for about 20 minutes more before she wakes up and we start the cycle again. So I'm just going to pop in and record. And what that means is I don't get to sit down and get all pretty and get all my hand knits on. I'm just wearing what I'm wearing on a normal day. My hair's not done, my makeup's not done, and I gotta be okay with that. That's where my life is at right now, and if that's not your jam, if you're here for something that's perfected and polished, then you're not gonna get that for the foreseeable future, because that's not where I'm at in my life right now. And that's okay. If this isn't your jam, then that's not your jam. That's fine. It's your free time. You're allowed to decide what to do with it. If you don't mind a little bit less polished, then welcome. So today is May 6th. I'm wearing a navy blue dress that is covered in cat hair. And yesterday was May 5th, and I was wearing a taupe dress that was also covered in cat hair. And, so I have recorded this. I always record the intro last so that I can talk about sort of actually what I ended up recording. So I've recorded this over the last 2 days. There's also a segment that I recorded back in February before I got rid of or sent away one of my gifts, one of my projects, which was a gift. And so, that's, if you see me in a brown dress, it's from yesterday. That's that. I am drinking just some cinnamon blackberry bigelow tea, which is kind of my go-to during the day right now. I think that's what I drank yesterday too. And these really cool acorn mugs. We have a set of 4 of them for my mother-in-law. I really like them. So today for segments we have the Cal update and information, which will be next, followed by finished objects and then works in progress. I briefly talk about my make 9s and then I go into my topic, which is about Burnout. In the Burnout topic, I record half of it and then I have to get up and get the child, and then I was able to get 10 more minutes that evening to finish my talking about it. And when I come back, it's a little bit more of a ramble. I mean, I know that segment is called the prattle segment, right? But it's a little bit more of me talking through things and coming to realizations about my own beliefs, about myself, and problematic ways of thinking. And So if you're not here for that, again, totally fine. Then this prattle segment is not for you. I'm just gonna put that like blanket warning on it. Yeah. All right. I think that's everything that I have to talk about. Yeah, let's jump in. All right, everybody. Let's talk about the cal. So we are doing the Tiny Makes Create Along, the Tiny Makes cal, which is where you make tiny things and you use up little scraps. Here's a tiny thing that you could make, for instance. I'll talk about this a little bit later. Here are some other tiny things you could make. So it can be a tiny thing or something for a tiny being, right? So if you make a baby blanket, that's not tiny, but it's for a tiny human, so it counts. Basically, anything tiny or anything for a tiny human, dog, whatever, doesn't matter. Use the hashtag we're giving away prizes. I'm going to put a little picture of the May prizes in here, and the March prize winners have already been pulled and been notified because I didn't end up recording in March. So for May, Yelly on Instagram, who is awesome, is running the May Sway, which is the May small weave along with Yelly. And they're just doing like small weavings, and I love it. So I've decided I was going to pull for the May prizes on May 12th, but I've decided to wait until the end of May and pull at the end of May because any small weavings can also count here. So I figure that way we'll get some more small weavings, right? And I just love seeing them. So get your small weaves, get your small knits, your small crochets, whatever it is, just get them done. There are 3 places that you can win from. There's the chatter thread on Ravelry, the finished object thread on Ravelry, and the hashtag on Instagram. And so for May, there will be 4 prizes, and the way it will work is if you win, you're just going to tell me your preferences, and I'll go first come, first serve, and hopefully you'll get what you want. Yeah, that's it. This will, like I said, there will be May prizes, and then the last round will be July. When my daughter turns 1, that'll be the end of the Tiny Makes cal. And, yeah, I don't think I have much else to say about that. So I apparently just talked for a while without turning the camera on. So, yeah, that is the kind of mood you're getting in this episode. Sorry about that. No, I'm not going to apologize. This is the state of my life right now, and I am a real person with a real life, and I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to share some awesome fiber. So, alright, finished objects. The first one is my Jutland hat from my Aunt Pam. I finished it at the end of January, I think, maybe the very beginning of February. And I went ahead and sent it to her. So, my glasses are gross. So before I sent it out, I recorded a quick snippet of me talking about it and showing it to you, and I'm going to insert that here. Hi everybody, this is me on February 11th, and I just wanted to pipe in to show you my Jutland hat. So, this is a gift. I'm about to send it off to my aunt. So I wanted to show it to you before I did. This is where I was last time. This marker. I finished up the hat. I did one more repeat than the pattern called for. The color's coming through a little bit better than this time than last time, but it's still not quite true to life. That's a little, well, I don't know. That it's really beautiful and like subtly tonal. There is one spot where I messed up and I cabled in the wrong direction on this little cable right here, but you can't really tell. I just kind of went in with waste yarn and did a fake duplicate stitch over, so I had this one going over, so I just made that one go over. But it really doesn't even show. So this is for my aunt, and I'm gonna ask her, I have plenty of extra yarn, plenty-ish, so I'm gonna ask her A, if she wants me to extend the hat, which I might end up doing, and B, if she wants to have mittens or a cowl. I don't have enough yarn for both, but I'll go ahead and pop it on for you. So it's a little bit more of a beanie fit than the pattern calls for. Again, even though I added an extra pattern repeat. It's a little bit loose, but I don't know. It's definitely tighter than anticipated. So I'll see what she thinks of it. Yeah, I used Fresh from the Cauldron Valhalla DK, which is a blend. Hold on. Okay, I used Fresh from the Cauldron Valhalla DK, which is 65% merino, 15% yak, and 20% silk, so it's really soft and squishy. I used the Briny Deep colorway, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. It was a really fun pattern. This braided cabling is absolutely ingenious the way it's done. It's definitely not a normal cable, but I absolutely love it. So, yeah, back to rest of podcast me. Okay, and now that you have seen my Jutland hat, we can talk about my next finished object, which is my baby strap flip-flops. Here they are. Yeah, so I made these obviously for my daughter. They're part of the Tiny Makes Cal. I will insert a picture of them on her feet over here because they look quite different. But they're really adorable. I didn't exactly follow the pattern. So the pattern is the Baby Strap Flip-Flops by Bethany Dearden, which is part of, I think, Ivy and Whistle is what it's called. And they have a lot of, like, baby shoes. It's very cute. But the pattern called for me to put this little strap over the top near the toe, and her foot just straight up didn't fit in it at all, even remotely. When I did that, like, by, like, almost an inch. So I just let her wear them without the straps. They didn't stay on quite as well, but they were still very, very cute. I used Knit Picks Brava scraps that I had, and that's their 100% acrylic worsted weight yarn in the silver and avocado colorways. Yeah, and they're super cute. I'm super happy with them. She loves them in that she loves to then pull them off of her feet because they're a fun toy. And so she's probably not really going to wear them much again. They fit for the cruise that we went on. They were a little bit loose. They came off of her feet on a fairly regular basis. Now they fit a little bit better. There is a small chance she might wear them as it gets warmer here, but by the time we really hit summer here, they're probably going to be too small. But they're really cute, and I enjoyed them while they fit her. So there you go. Alright, my next finished object was my birthday bralette. I'm so ridiculously happy with this. Oh, guys. So this project is the Framework Bralette by Jessie Made Designs. I made it with Magpie Fibers Swanky DK in the Masquerade colorway, which was left over from my Eason shawl, which I don't know if I've ever actually showed finished on the podcast. I might have to do that next time. I love this color. It's this really, you can't, it's not gonna, but it's this really cool shimmery, nuanced teal blue. I really love it. Let's see. I'm not gonna be able to get the right color, but that's not that far off. The subtle pooling and striping is less obvious in person than it is on the camera. But, oh my goodness, I'm so in love with this project. So, this was the Framework Bralette, and I thought it was super cute, and I wanted to make it for myself, but I was like, no. Like, I know I'm never really gonna wear it, because, well, and here are the reasons I didn't think I was gonna wear it. One, I am fairly self-conscious about my breasts and their size and shape, and so I tend to wear undergarments that make me feel less self-conscious about them. And this would not be that. That's number one. Number two, and this is probably the bigger reason, I am self-conscious about my body in general, and wearing things that don't cover my whole torso makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Not in the like, oh, I'm uncomfortable way, but in the like, not that I'm like afraid of showing skin, but that I don't feel good enough to show skin, which is bullshit. And I've been working on breaking down my ridiculous fatphobic internalized thoughts, which, again, I don't apply to anyone else. I just apply them to me. I don't know. I think this has to do with like my honors kid syndrome and like whatever. Anyway, I expect myself to be a perfectionist. And so this pattern, I was like, oh, that's really cute, but I'll never wear it. And then I found out that the pattern was going to be released on my birthday last year, 2019. And so I was like, well, okay, you know what? If I have yarn in stash for it, I will make it. And lo and behold, I had leftovers that almost exactly worked for it. And this is a DK weight yarn. And so I said, okay, all right, I'll do it. So I cast it on, and I love it. And I love it, and I love it, and I love it. And I kept telling myself that I would quote-unquote lose the baby weight, which again is bullshit, by the time I finished this, so that I could look good in it. And I have decided that that is nonsense, and I'm just gonna wear it. I'm just gonna wear it. So the entirety of this is a giant act of self-love. It was choosing a pattern that I thought was really cute, even though it's maybe not functional. It was something that I wanted to knit even though it wasn't functional, which I never let myself knit things that aren't functional, which is nonsense. I should knit to enjoy it. And it was a pattern that wearing it forces me to be okay with who I am as I am. And it came out on my birthday. So I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with everything it represents. I'm going to try and get my husband to take some finished object pictures for me. It's also not super practical for me to wear it right now because I'm still nursing, and like I'm wearing nursing bras right now, so this doesn't really work. But, which is why I'm not wearing it right now, because I'm just popping in and out. It's not, yeah. But I will try and get some finished object photos and put them here or while I'm talking, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm super happy with it. So that is my birthday bralette. And the last finished object that I have is an itty bitty tiny sweater. So I have been on a use every last inch of yarn kick recently. And I don't quite use 5 grams for each square of my blanket, so these were just little leftovers from my blanket that I was like, let's see if it's enough to make a sweater. It's not quite. So I ended up, this was one mini, and I had about a yard left when I finished the body of the sweater. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and take a different scrap and make the sleeves. So I did that. I made this little hanger like a long time ago, because at the time I was on a tiny sweater kick. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I'm seriously considering just like making a garland of tiny sweaters and putting them around. So both of these minis didn't weigh in on my scale, my yarn scale, when I went to weigh. So I'm a little obsessive, and with my scrap blanket, like if I start with a 5 gram mini, I'll make the square and then I'll weigh the leftovers and log exactly how much I have left and how much I used, and yeah, I'm just very obsessive. Which I really enjoy it. I spreadsheet for fun, so hey. But data is my friend. But both of these were too small to even register on the scale. So I do have a couple of minis that registered at 3, maybe 4 grams. And I think I'm going to try and make tiny sweaters out of those. I don't know, I'm just trying to come up with little things that I can do with those tiny extras. I used a lot of the bigger leftovers in mending my brother's socks, which I'm not even going to talk about my mending in this episode because there's just a lot of it, so I'll just mention it next time. So I could save them for that, but who knows. Yeah. So for this, I used the Malice May. Wait, I can't read my handwriting. Mal something May. It's on the Ravelry page. Tiny sweater pattern, and I used US 1.5 needles, which is a 2.5 millimeter. So yeah, I am super happy with this. It was a fun little project to work up, and you know, just to have it. I'll just kind of pin it to the wall for now, I think. Yeah, so those are my finished objects. Now we're going to talk about works in progress. So let's talk about whips. The first whip that I have is my Rebel Scum hat. And I made this for my husband for his birthday. It's a little bit tight, and then I blocked it, and I blocked it fairly aggressively, and it loosened up a little bit and then shrunk back, and yeah, so the whole thing, I'm basically done with it. You might be wondering why this is still in the whips section. The reason for that is because I still have to add a pom-pom. I've ordered a pom-pom maker from Heather Yarn Co., who you should follow on Instagram if you're not already. And so I'll be getting that at some point, and I'll make a pom-pom, and then this will officially be done. But in the meantime, here it is. I used a yarn that I don't agree with. Did not find out I don't agree with their practices until after I purchased the yarn. So I ran out part of the way through the crown, and in order to finish it, I just found some extra on D-Stash on Ravelry. I believe Knit Picks has a sport weight yarn. It's done with sport weight yarn. I believe Knit Picks has a sport weight yarn you could use, but I really like this. My husband really likes it. He's super excited to wear it. The color work blocked out really nicely. That's one of the best color works that I've ever done, so I definitely credit the Jacquard Floats method that is as for in the pattern. It looks kind of cool on the inside too. So yeah, I will definitely be doing that float management technique more after this. Yeah, alright. My next work in progress is one that you have not seen yet, and that is my Nether garments. So this is for the Career Cal, which was hosted by Knitting My Shit Together. It ended at the end of March. It was a 6-month-long cal, which was plenty of time. I did not finish because instead of starting on October 1st, I started on like March 8th. But it's a fully size inclusive pattern. The official pattern was the Nether garments pattern by Elizabeth Zimmerman, in which you make leggings. And I was waffling for a long time on whether or not I was going to make them, but I decided to go ahead and make them. So I started with the left leg, and I did the cuff, and the cuff was done in size 1.5 needles. I'm using finger eight yarn. It's fully size inclusive because you literally just follow your own measurements, and I adapted the pattern a little bit to give me more negative ease than the pattern called for. But yeah, so I did the cuff, then I changed to size 2 needles, and I started working straight stockinette. And then at that point I paused, and I went back and I did the cuff for the right leg and started working in straight stockinette. So I did a lot of going back and forth, sort of knitting them 2 at a time, but not like on the needles 2 at a time, like going back and forth between them. So I did straight stockinette all the way up until the calf increases. I adapted them a little bit. It's written in my project notes, but basically I just slowed them down. And then after the calf increases, I did 100 rows plain. And what I did is I just knit until I ran out of the first ball. And what I'm using is Knit Picks Stroll Tweed in the Marine Heather colorway, which is a blue that's really hard to get the right coloration on. And the interesting part is I ordered this yarn, this sweater quantity of yarn, after I had this one, which is the same colorway on a different one of their yarns. And I was actually hoping it would be this color. It's just the color I was going for. But I'd always known that superwash yarn was told that it was brighter, and here's an example of that. So this is Palette, and this is Stroll. So anyway, the balls kind of spat, and part of that is because my daughter likes to roll around and chew on them, so they get messed up. So I ended up having to hand wind all of the balls. But anyway, okay. So I kept going on the right leg until I ran out of yarn from the first ball. And then I went back to the left leg and I repeated everything until I ran out of yarn. Then I joined on the second ball of yarn for the left leg. And I finished my 100 rows of stockinette before the thigh increases. And I started the thigh increases, and the way that you do the thigh increases, you sort of mirror them. So I really wanted to make sure that I went ahead and before I forgot what I had done for the thigh increases and how to mirror them, I went and mirrored them on the right leg. So I put the left leg on holders, and I went over to the right leg, and I finished up. I only had like 20 more rows of stockinette. And then I figured out the right thigh increases. And then I ended up just doing the thigh increases and finishing up that leg on the right side. So again, I was doing like back and forth, back and forth. And this is what I have left of the second ball for the right leg, and it's done. I've got all sorts of markers in here, counting rows and stuff like that. And then I have gone back to the left leg, and I'm on the second ball of the left leg, working on the thigh increases. So the calf increases are down here. The thigh increases, I decided to follow the pattern exactly, and it was increasing too quickly again. And instead of ripping it out and changing the increases, I decided to just pause. So let's see. Here we go. This is the first part of the thigh increases. And then I paused for 30 rows, and then I started doing the thigh increases again. I mean, it works itself out either way. Like, it's fine. Right now, I'm working on this pretty much every day. My daughter gets a little bit cranky right before her afternoon nap, which I would too. And so we just go outside and sit on the lawn, and she loves that. And this comes with me to the lawn because it's plain stockinette. It's something I can do and just drop at any moment if she starts like eating a bug. But it's living in my Black Squirrel collaboration bags that I got at Lambtown last year, which is hand stamped leaves. I really like it. Yeah, so I worked on that for most of the time that we were gone in March. I'll touch on that briefly later on. I'm gonna pause here and change the camera because the sun's really starting to come in, so I'm gonna move. You're basically gonna be looking at not a yarny background, I'm sorry, but at least you'll be able to see. And then I'll keep talking. Okay, hello. That's the entrance to a different room in this house. So the two other works in progress that I've been working on, other than my scrap blanket, which always goes at the end, have been the Stay the Fuck Inside Cal, which was run by Yelly Knits on Instagram. She's an amazing human being if you don't know her. And I did not get very far. I made myself a swatch, and then I decided, I don't know if I like the swatch. I don't know, it's growing on me now that I'm picking it up again, but I think this yarn wants to be knit instead of crochet. So If I'm gonna do a knit swatch, and I'm gonna see which one I like better, and then I'll go from there. I'll just do a stockinette swatch to see how the yarn behaves, but I think the yarn wants to be knit. I think that's what it comes down to. And this one, let's see, is another swatch, and this is for the Initiate Knit Design challenge that I did with Aroha Knits. I did this back in February, I believe. And this is my swatch for my design. And you will be hearing more about my design as we go. I'm actually really, really excited about this design. I'm really happy to work on it. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. I have special ordered hand-dyed yarn to make this design because it's going to be very different colors than this, but the same base. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. Yeah. I don't know that I have much else to say about this other than that I'm glad I'm doing it. I'm glad I'm working on the design. It's a big deal for me. I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, and so this is like huge for me. But here's the swatch. Hopefully it will look much better and very different, but same pattern. So the light is not doing it justice. But I guess there we go. It's getting really washed out on the camera, but I'm really excited for this to be my design. So yeah. I'm going to insert a little section that I recorded earlier today about my scrap blanket here. And then we're going to move on to the next section, which will be my make nines. Alright, I am going to show you my stained glass scrap blanket, which lives in my giant African market basket that I got at Black Squirrel Berkeley. So, last time that you saw this, I had been working from the bottom, and I had sort of built it into two sections. And originally I had planned to make two full pyramids and then combine them together. Well, two sort of full pyramids, right? Because I had the sides. And then combine them together to keep it portable as long as possible. And then I figured out how to pick up for the black border across a whole row. I don't know why it took me so long to figure this out. It's not rocket science. I know several people had asked about it, and I was like, I don't know if you need to, if you can, because you have to like slip the stitches, and I decided to just try it, and it worked really well. So, on that note, I did record the process of me doing that on one of the rows that I just did, and I will be posting that as a tutorial soonish, but whenever I get a chance to edit it. But in the meantime, here's where I am with my blanket. So what I ended up doing is the right half of the blanket was the bigger one, and what I did is I just finished it up so that it was flat. So this was all there already. Ignore this one. This one has two hooks in it. That's for a different reason. What I did is I did this brown one, brown with stellina, this blue, also with stellina, and then this purple. And these two are minis from a swap, and this is from the sweater I made my grandmother. And then the other half, which really was like the other third, it was like 2/3 and 1/3. All the way down here. Okay, so then this other side, I had done a lot of it, and okay, so that tan and pink one near the bottom with a gold stitch marker in it. Let's see. Alright, so this was all done and that was all done. And so what I did is I did this one. Then I was able to do the black triangle underneath it. And then I just worked up from there. So I did those two, and then those three, and then the 4 on top of that all the way up. And I'm just going to go across from here now. So did all of these. All of these. This one is from my Bingo Oh My God Reddit thing. All of those, all the ones with markers in them I did. All the way over here. And then up here. I'm going to point out a couple that for one reason or another, special things to talk about. So, this gray one right here, this is a Hawaii Bazaar Co. mini. And originally what I did is I did, the Kevin is the colorway, I don't remember the yarn or anything like that, but it is this. And I got it as a mini at a trunk show, and I went to log all my blanket minis, and I was like, why is it already logged that I've used this yarn? Turns out I had used that yarn, and I totally forgot. I guess I must have wound it back up and then put it back in the minis that I hadn't used section. So I frogged it, and it is right here. And I replaced it with that Hawaii Bazaar Co. mini. That's why this one over here had double in it, because I didn't actually make it. I made it a while ago, but I just noticed it. And the other two that are of note would be this one that's like blue and purple. That's from an Opal mini, and whenever I got the Opal minis for the advent calendar, like in 2016, and whenever there was a mini that had like a really long color repeat that's really distinct, I would do it twice. So this was the first half of that mini, so it sort of went like that right into there. You cannot see that at all. It went through the oranges and the green and the blue, and then into blue, purple, blue. And that also happened here. Let's see if I can find the other half. Here we go. And this was the first half. Got the peaches, the oranges, and then into the pink and yellow. And this is the second half. Yellow into green, blue, green, back to yellow. This one, incidentally, if anybody knows what colorway that is, I would love to make myself a pair of socks out of it. And unfortunately, the Opal minis are all labeled the same. They don't have the colorway on them at all. So I have no idea. But yeah, so I have made a lot of progress on this blanket. I also went back and finished up all the triangles on the bottom, all the black triangles. I also wove in all of my ends. I have over 200 at this point. And I'm keeping them because of course I am, because I don't know, I want to find something fun to do with them. I did not weave in the ends on the edges because I leave those until I pick up from them so that it's easier to pick up the next, sorry, I have a hair in my mouth, so that it's easier to pick up the next square. But still have hair in my mouth. There we go. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. It's super potato chippy. Yeah, and so I only have 2 more sort of sections inside of here. I think it's 7 and then 8, or 8 and then 9. I don't remember. Squares to go. And then this sort of inside thing that I picked up all of the minis from, inverted V that you can see starting there, that will be even with this 2/3 section over here. So at that point I'll be able to pick up the black all the way across, almost all the way across, because it won't quite be even with this side yet. This side's a little bit taller. I think it'll be to here, but then after that I'll be able to go right up all the way across, which will be really cool. I think it'll be really cool to plan out like a whole row of minis, or maybe even 2 rows of minis at a time, and then just pick up all the black and go. Hi, it's me later in the day. 2 other things I forgot to mention about the blanket. This one was also a mini that I had to replace. I started on it, and then I discovered it was the exact same yarn as this one, and I don't know how that happened. I got both of those in swaps, and they were still sealed, so they must have been swaps from 2 different people that happened to give me the same yarn. But I didn't get very far on that one before I figured it out, so pulled it out. And back here, I said I had done these 3. Sorry, the sun's in the way, but I also did this pink, peachy pink one. Yeah, so that's it about the blankets. This is part of my Make 9 Mind, which you have not heard about yet, and you will hear about later on in the episode. Sorry about the sun. So last time I recorded, I talked about my first 2 Make 9s of 2020, which were my Make 9 Main, which was just 9 projects that I wanted to do, and my Make 9 Mend, which was 9 projects that I wanted to mend. I had 2 more. And the next one is my Make 9 Mind, which is 9 projects or project adjacent things that I have already started that I want to pay attention to. I want to mind them. And in some cases, minding them could mean just giving them some love, and in some cases it means I want to just focus and finish them up. So you should be seeing the 3x3 grid up here. At the top left of that, we have my birthday bralette, which you should have already seen in the finished objects section. Top center, we have some headbands that I'm making for my daughter, the birds and the bees baby headbands. The top right is my stained glass blanket, which I gave some decent love to. I'm probably still going to work on it more this year, but I think I will consider this at least halfway checked off. The next row, I've got my Christmas Eve mitts, and so really long-term viewers might remember back in like 2016 I started this, and it's just colorwork mittens with the 12 days of Christmas on them. They're little itty-bitty mittens. And the 12 Days of Christmas song is really important in my family. It's like a big tradition. And so I really want to work on those. I don't know if they're going to be finished come this Christmas, but this Christmas 2020 is probably going to be the first Christmas that Gwen has any idea what's going on, right? Like, she had no idea what was happening this Christmas. She was 5 months old. And so I think doing things like decorating will be really fun, and I don't know, I have my own house now. I feel like an adult, and I want to have that in my house. So I don't know if it'll be done, but I want to really give it some love. Right in the middle, you might see a picture that looks a little bit different than all the other ones. That's because I didn't take it. And that was the image for the Aroha Knits Design Challenge. And so this picture represents several things. I wanted to do that actual challenge as a way of forcing myself to make a design, create a design, and have some ownership over it. And doing that challenge would give me a time limit, right? As you can tell from my works in progress, I obviously have not finished my project because I wanted specific yarn for it, but I feel like doing it still really helped me. I don't know if I will finish that exact design this year. There's a lot this year, but I have a couple other designs going in my head, and I'm really excited for all of it. So that was the middle. The next one is my Rebel Scum hat, which I'm almost done with, you saw. Bottom row, bottom left, is my family life blanket, which is every new location or big event in our family's life, I made a square for it, and I've been adding those squares to the blanket. So I have like a bunch of yarn like this yarn. This yarn was hand dyed and hand spun by somebody in Point Reyes, which is where we went for our first wedding anniversary and for our baby moon, just before my daughter was born. It was a really special place for both of us, and so I want to make a square from this and put it in the blanket. And I have several squares that are made that just need to be put in the blanket, and I have several hanks of yarn that need to be knit into squares and then put in the blanket. The next one over is my Peaky Cat socks. I started That was a long time ago, like in 2018 probably. Yeah, 2018. And I got through the cuff. I changed the heel up, and so I measured it differently from how the pattern said, and then I just did my measurements wrong. So I got almost down to the toe and realized it was gonna be way too short. So I have to frog that back to above the collarwork of the foot cat, and then knit it up, and then I'm just gonna knit the second one. Once I've figured out the math and done it, I could just copy the first one. And then the last one is my Purple Mountain Majesty sweater, which I want to finish. Which I have the first sleeve attached. The second sleeve is done. I have to block it and then attach it. And then I have to knit the neckband. And that's it. Like, then I'm done with that sweater. So, as you can see of all of these, the two blankets, I want to give them some love. The headbands, the hat, the socks, and the sweater I want to finish. And the bralette. And then the Christmas Eve mitts, hopefully finish them. I don't know. I've finished 3 or 4 already. I can't remember. I don't know where they are. They're somewhere, I'm sure. But I want to find them and maybe finish the others. That would be nice. Yeah, so that's my Make 9 Mind for 9 projects that I want to mind. And then my last Make 9 is my Make 9 Miscellaneous, which should be up here. And that's basically non-yarn projects, right? All things that I, for the most part, want to finish. So, top left is Cece's quilt. You've seen that already. I've started the quilting, I just want to finish it. Then we have a maroon support spindle spin. I want to spin the other half of it and then ply the two together. Next up we have quilt and bind. This quilt number 2. I still haven't decided which of my cousins that one's going to go to, which my baby cousins. Next row we have my spring sampler I want to finish. In the middle I have some Ladybug fabric. I want to make a raincoat for Gwen out of that. It's laminated cotton, so it's waterproof. I want to make a raincoat for Gwen out of it. Then middle right, we have 2 cutout things for a tree skirt. And I saw this idea like years ago, where it's a tree skirt for like a Christmas tree, and every year you have the kids in the family put their handprints in paint on the tree skirt, and so you can see it go around. And so I didn't have time to actually make the tree skirt for this year. But I cut out the pieces, and with my husband, we printed Gwen's hand onto it. So we have that. So I have to actually finish the tree skirt before Christmas this year so she can put her handprint on it herself this time. So that's a big one that's like really important. Like a lot of these, it's like I would like to finish them, but if I don't, it's not the end of the world. It's just kind of my goals, but that one I want to finish in 2020. And the final row is my quilt and bind quilt number 3. Those 2, I don't know which of my cousins it's going to go to. And then the middle on the bottom is a gray support spindle spin where I just have to ply them. So that's fun. And then the last one is quilt and bind Gwen's quilt. So yeah. That's it. Those are my 4 Make 9s. I haven't officially gone through any updates of my Make 9s. I don't plan to this episode because it's been a really long time, so it's going to be a long episode anyway, so I just won't. And I will talk about those next time. But from here, we are going to move on to the topic. Okay, so a quick update on my life before doing anything. Last time you saw me, it was January. February was a little bit of a crazy month, just kind of trying to unpack and deal with everything. March, as it has been for all of you, has been insane. I'm not even going to touch on the whole pandemic thing right now. Like, I'm just going to leave that for my next episode. But for me, we went on a cruise the first week in March. My partner had a business trip. Second week, we went on a cruise. And it's funny because everything was fine when we left, and we were gone for a whole week, and then we came back, and everything was in chaos. So that's great. Then we were home for a week, and then we had to go to my in-laws for 3 weeks so we could get the lead paint removed from the house. So we took the cats and the baby, and we bundled ourselves up into the car and went to my in-laws for 3 weeks, and we came back. And then we got to finally start actually moving into our house, because we had to move everything, pack everything out again, so that they could come in and shave all the lead paint off. So I'm looking around and I see such a mess, because everything is overwhelming sometimes. But yeah, that's how my life has been. And at this point, I think I'm just going to transition straight into the topic. So, we talked about burnout before, and how I have been burned out, and I never rested, ever. I'm gonna run grab something. I'll be right back. Okay, so I did a lot of research into burnout, because when I was a kid, I was always told not to give too much energy into my job because then I'd burn out, right? And what happens when you burn out, you stop caring. And that's not what happened to me. I still cared. So I'm just going to read a couple of things that I found that really resonated with me. So according to the World Health Organization, occupational burnout is a syndrome resulting from chronic work-related stress with symptoms characterized by, quote, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. It's considered an unspecified trauma or stressor-related disorder. It's in the same group as adjustment disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder and other conditions that are caused by excessive stress that continue once the stressors have been removed. So that was interesting to me, that this state continuing once I was off work was okay. Well, not okay, but was normal. That's what's expected when you've burnt out. The condition is further defined as being a state of vital exhaustion. Well, that sounds about right. Classic or frenetic burnout is where someone works harder and harder trying to resolve the stressful situation or seek suitable reward for their work. It's not about giving up. I didn't give up. It's about working harder and harder and harder. It has also been hypothesized that chronic fatigue syndrome is caused by burnout. It is suggested that the burning out of the body's stress symptom by a wide range of causes can lead to chronic fatigue. Occupational burnout is known for its exhausting effect on its sufferers. Other effects of burnout can manifest as lowered energy and productivity levels, with workers observed to be consistently late for work, check, and a feeling of dread upon arriving, check. They can suffer decreased concentration, check, forgetfulness, check, increased frustration, check, or feelings of being overwhelmed, check. They may complain and feel negative or feel apathetic and believe they have little impact on their coworkers' environment, check, check, and check. Occupational burnout is also associated with absences, time missed from work, and thoughts of quitting. Chronic burnout is associated with cognitive impairments such as memory and attention. There's a growing amount of research suggesting that burnout can manifest differently between genders, with greater incidence of depersonalization among men and higher emotional exhaustion among women. what I had been told my whole life would happen if I put too much energy into it was that I would burn out and I would depersonalize. I would stop caring. I wouldn't commit anymore. And instead, I got chronic and frenetic burnout, and so I didn't recognize it. I worked harder and harder and harder trying to resolve the stressful situation and or seek suitable reward for their work. I had the emotional exhaustion. And I don't Burnout often causes a decline in the ability to update information in the working memory. This is not easily treated with cognitive behavioral therapy. I read this and I was just like, why did no one tell me that this could happen? And I've talked to other people in other occupations where, like, there's a lot of awareness for burnout and how it impacts people. And in teaching, it's like, it's almost like it's just expected. Like, I had this moment where I realized after I left at the end of my last year, I hadn't used my good hairbrush for over 2 months. Why? Because it was packed in my classroom supplies. Why was it there? Because I brushed my hair more often at work than at home. And so that's where my good hairbrush was, along with my good toothbrush. And it was this sudden realization. And my husband said to me, "You didn't see anything wrong with that?" I said, "No, I thought it just meant I was a good teacher, that I was good at my job and cared about my job and was committed. And isn't that a good thing?" I guess it could be, but it wasn't. And there was this giant research book on burnout that I'm really trying to get from the library, but I was able to find a screenshot from it. And it had the 6 causes of burnout. Number 1, work overload. Job demands exceed human limits. I definitely had that. 100% had that. Number 2, lack of control. Inability to influence decisions that affect your job. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Number 3, insufficient rewards. Insufficient financial, institutional, or social rewards. Yep. Number 4, breakdown of community. Unsupportive workplace environment. Oh, for sure. Number 5, absence of fairness. Lack of fairness in decision-making processes. Yeah. And 6, value conflicts. Mismatch in organizational values and the individual values. That one's a little bit trickier, but because there is a value match in my values and the professed values of the district and the school, but not in the acted values. And only one of those is actually working too much. So this isn't just about working too much, it's about the mental state that I was in order to survive in that environment. Alright, my daughter's awake, so I'm gonna go get her. And I probably won't be able to record more of this tonight, so I will continue tomorrow. So, the question for me in all of this has become, how did I get here? And how do I never go back? Because in some ways I miss teaching. I miss what it gave me at the beginning. It gave me purpose, gave me a place to direct all of my energy. It gave me something to invest in, someone, lots of people to invest in. And it would be nice to have that again, to have a classroom, to be able to feel like I made an impact. But when I think about the prospect of going back to work, I start panicking. Everything clenches up. And again, I really want to emphasize that this is not about whether or not I should be a stay-at-home mom, okay? Like, I respect people that do that. I don't love small children. And yeah, it's different when it's my own. But it's only so different. And I need to have something else that I do with my life so that I don't go crazy. So how did I get here? And how do I make sure I never go back? And I think part of how I got here was this idea that had been ingrained into me ever since I was a kid. That one, if you do something, you do it well and to the best of your ability, no exceptions. And two, you never refuse an opportunity to help someone else. And I've realized that neither of those are healthy. Both of them are things that are great in theory, but are pretty much destroying all of my close relationships and my soul from the inside out. And I was not taught a sense of balance, which is something that I desperately need. The other day, I had been accomplishing a lot. I was just getting stuff done, go, go, go. And I got a lot done all day. And it was after dinner and there was still a lot to do, and I was like, oh, I'm so close to checking all these things off my checklist. You know, if I just work until the end of the day, I will have gotten everything off of my Saturday checklist. That will be amazing. And I just completely crashed and I hit a wall, and I was like standing in the middle of the family room just staring. And my husband was like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I just hit a wall. And he was like, why don't you take a break? And I said, because if I sit down, I will never be able to get back up again. I'm so exhausted that if I stop, I won't be able to start. And he was like, yeah, that means you should take a break. Like, no, you don't understand. If I stop, I won't be able to finish what's on my list for today. Okay, so this is your body's way of telling you that you need to stop and take a break. And I was like, my body's never said that to me before. This is just, I don't know, I'm just like out of it. And he said, Lily, your body has said that to you repeatedly over the past 10 years and you just ignore it. Now it is time to take a break. And I had this suddenly realization that as I was standing there in the family room just staring blankly, I wasn't thinking, hey, maybe I should take a break. I was thinking, God, I need energy. Why don't I go have some cookies? That'll get me enough energy. I'll get enough of a sugar rush that I can do what I freaking should be able to do without a sugar rush anyway. Why can't I do this without a sugar rush? And I decided, I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I said out loud to my husband, no, see, you say it's time to take a break, but that's not really how I tend to handle things. I handle things by guilt and sugar. And like, I knew, even before I said it, how absurd it sounded. And he knew too, and like, this was not a fight that we were having, but it was this sudden realization that I don't deal with anything telling me I should stop or take a break. Well, I deal with it by guilt and sugar. At least the past decade of my life, if not more, has been entirely fueled by guilt and sugar. Sometimes more guilt, sometimes more sugar. Lots of times caffeine. I overdosed on caffeine in high school because I took so much caffeine trying to stay up to finish a paper. I have been fueled by guilt and sugar. For as long as I can remember. how do you come back from that? How do you get yourself to be productive and a functional human being? And I'm realizing as I'm saying this that there's a lot of ableism built into what I'm saying. Like, I had 2 migraines last week, and I'm mad at myself for not getting enough done. I was incapacitated for 2 full days. I obviously have a lot to unpack. And it's stuff I didn't think I had to unpack because somebody said to me a long time ago, why don't you give yourself the same advice you give your students? Well, because I don't deserve it. I should be able to do better than that, because if I can't function, then I can't give them that advice, and my purpose is to give them, what is wrong with me? Oh my god, I have such a savior complex. I have such a savior complex. And everything I've done in my entire life has been fueled by guilt. And I have no fucking idea what to do about it. And the question that I keep coming back to is, how do I not go back? Because at this point, I know how I got there. But I don't know how to stay away. I need help. Oh, jeez. Oh, that's our mail being delivered. So, now that I've basically turned this podcast into my personal therapy session, side note, save the frickin' post office. Why is this even a question? Okay. Now that I've turned this into my personal therapy session, I know there are a lot of you out there who are neurodivergent. I obviously need some perspective and insight that I cannot give myself. And maybe it's perspective that I've been able to give other people my whole life, but clearly I can't give it to myself. I don't know why. I don't know. I would never talk to anyone like this, but apparently I talk to myself like it. So, I am open to perspective and insight. And just kind of help in general. Yeah. Alright, that's going to be it for this section. The last thing that I'm going to talk about today is other things that I might talk about in future episodes that people may have mentioned. And, yeah, so I would love your feedback on what they are. So some people have asked for maybe like a house tour or more information about the house, what I like about it, maybe what our plans are for the house. Do you want me to include various home improvement tasks in the things that I talk about, like as finished objects or work in progress, or just stick to the traditional crafting like knitting and sewing? And should I continue with the more personal stuff? Because honestly, doing the research and stuff is really motivated by having something to say. So it's kind of helping me, but also, like, you are not my therapist. My many therapists. No. So, yeah, if this is too much, and I am 100% okay with that, if this is too much, please tell me. If you're like, it's not too much, but maybe do it somewhere else, that's fine too. Yeah, so people have asked stuff about the house. I'm going to be doing a lot more mending and fixing and stuff like that. So we're definitely going to talk about that in the future, but how much we talk about it is up to you. And potentially talking about my plans. I have a lot of plans for what to do with like scraps of yarn that are on my shelf, so maybe that. And yeah, potentially other goal related things, like I really want to get back to running. Obviously with the pandemic, things are a little crazy right now, but just sort of goal tracking in general is something that could be in here that people have asked about. Yeah, so let me know what you're interested in, and I will see you next time, whenever that happens to be. All right.